You just spent the last 40 minutes doing something really difficult, trying to change your mind, trying to see things a bit differently, trying to understand how you could make forward motion happen, how to persuade other people using a tool in a fundamentally better way. I'm hoping this is beginning to get under your skin, but I want to close by summarizing some of the action items that we covered and to challenge you to take them even further. I'm intentionally not giving you a template, intentionally not saying follow A, B, C, and you will get D. That's not what changing your mind is about. What I'm trying to help you do is see the opportunity. Okay, some fundamental principles. Do not read your slides. The moment you read your slides, it is the PowerPoint that is giving the presentation, not you. What we have to understand is that our brain has two sides. One side is hearing our words and processing them. The other side is looking at images and understanding them. And when you juxtapose those two things together, you can make forward motion happen. If you need notes, make notes. Bring cue cards. Use the little note box on the bottom that's built into Keynote and PowerPoint that you can see and others can't. And practice. Because you are giving a performance. And when you give a performance, we can tell if it's you, if you've practiced it, if you have something to say. But there are going to be words in your slides. So find a font. A font is like a suit of clothes. Go to the font store. Buy a font that looks like you and feels like you and stick with it. Do not switch when you are bored with it. Switch when the audience is bored with it. And you will use images. But if you use stock photos that look like stock photos, happy, smiling people shaking hands, you're making a comment that we're going to notice. Oh, look, a stock photo. He didn't care enough. Oh, look, a stock photo. I can stop paying attention. When you use photos of our customers, when you use photos of our products, but most important, when there are photos of metaphors that make me think deeply, why is that photo even there? One of the photos I love to use is a picture of a seagull sitting on top of a sign that says, no seagulls. Now, I've just described it to you in words, so it went into one part of your brain. But when you see that image, it has a feel to it. It makes you sit up and say, oh, and then the penny drops, and you begin to understand the point I was trying to make. The next big concept that's universal is that slides are free. Always turn one slide into 5 slides if you can. There are no points for condensing your slides, no extra credit for making your slides very condensed. Instead, what you are doing is understanding that just as we use words to create waves of enthusiasm, to create moments of tension, to pause, to give people a moment to catch up, we can do the same thing with slides. The next big principle, which is almost never used, is the idea of bringing other voices into the presentation. When we see that client testimonial, or when we see that video of them looking at the screen and talking to us, now there's someone else who is chiming in on your behalf. You're probably going to want to use exhibits, because exhibits make the case to the logical part of our brain. Exhibits give us the chance to dig deep after you're done and to come to the conclusion that you have actually done your homework. I want to close with a couple stories. A friend of mine, social entrepreneur, sent me her deck last week. It was the same deck she had sent me 5 months earlier about the progress that her entity is making. She'd added a couple slides. And the whole thing bummed me out because it was classic PowerPoint. It was bullet after bullet. It was checkbox after checkbox. It was nothing new. It didn't seek to make change happen. So yes, every business struggles. Every enterprise is working hard to make its impact, but your slides don't have to work against you. The next sad story was 15, 20 years ago, sitting in a venture capital meeting with the other partners from the VC firm, watching entrepreneur after entrepreneur come in to pitch to raise money. This should be the easiest part of the process. You've been working for months or probably years to build an entity, to get client engagement, to figure out how to turn prospects into customers, to make technology do what you want. And this is just a chance to persuade other people that it's working. Guy walks in, he's got his little laser pointer that he's flashing on the screen and bouncing back into my eyes. He's got the boring bullet points. He's got the Forrester research results that don't mean anything. He's got all the data that everyone's eyes are glazing over, and he's not bringing his humanity into the room. And yes, as you've probably guessed, he didn't get the money. The third story happened to me just 2 weeks ago. Very fancy conference. The CEO is there. They've paid a lot of money to have a lot of their employees and vendors and customers come. He's got 15 minutes. He's going to take 18 because people with not enough to say always seem to take too much time to say it. And in those 18 minutes, the last 10 will be rushed because he hasn't practiced and wants to finish in 15. And it's bullet point after bullet point after bullet point. And if you had asked anyone in that room afterwards what he said, they would not be able to tell you. They could tell you his emotion. They could tell you how they felt about it. They could tell you that they really weren't present for the moment because there was no tension, there were no surprises, there was nothing important on offer. But no, they couldn't tell you what he said. Because too often we get stuck on the way it's being said because we're humans. We don't know how to go one level deeper and just be a Vulcan, just read the checkboxes, just understand the passive voice. We don't need you to bring a passive voice to your work. It's too important for that. And so my call to action after this short 50-minute course is pretty simple. My call to action is, if it's worth doing right. It's worth doing in a way that exposes you, that exposes us, that causes connection to happen. Don't let the defaults of the tool undermine what the tool is for. Abandon the passive voice. Show up. Share your story. We need you to lead us. Thanks.